25 Board of Select Persons meeting. I will just mention this meeting is being taped for view tomorrow. It won't be available. We're running into some SRC TV problems, and we'll get them resolved hopefully soon. But this will be available tomorrow on tape. So please join us for the flag salute.
Before you start the agenda, I want to make a motion that for the next 2 weeks, we ask and pay for an SRC TV representative to be here from the start of the meeting to the end of the meeting, on site.
Okay, that was a motion, correct?
That was a motion.
Yes. Second. Okay, second. Okay. Discussion not needed, I believe. All in favor? So who will arrange that?
Can you call them?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I will look for a motion to approve the January 13th meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor? Then I will look for a motion first to accept the warrants from January 13th. I believe those were just payroll warrants.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Next, I'll look for a motion to accept the current week's warrants. That's both payroll and payables.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. Would someone read the announcements, please?
The planning board will meet on Wednesday, January 22nd at 7 p.m. The committee meeting for discussion of the Limerick 250th celebration and opening of the time capsule will be held on Wednesday, the 22nd at 6 p.m. at the fire station. All are welcome. The select board will meet on Monday, January 27th at 7 p.m. And a public hearing for the March ballot questions will be held on Monday, February 3rd at 6 p.m. The public is urged to attend. Sand salt mixture is available for Limerick residents in the back parking lot of the Bricktown Hall. And the appeals board has 3 vacant seats to fill. Please reach out to the selectman admin if interested at 793-4475. As a reminder, if you are speaking at any meeting, please go to the microphone so everyone will be able to hear. And as part of the hearing of citizens policy, no personal attacks on any individual or firm, including town employees, town officials, or members of the public, will be tolerated during any meetings. Please direct concerns about individual employees or town officials to the chairman of the board of select persons outside the public meeting. And please stay current with town information by visiting www.limerickme.org.
All right, thank you. Okay, our first department report is we have the Limerick Historical Society's own Martha Hamilton Smith. We hope. Well deserved.
Martha Hamilton Smith, and I am a resident of Limerick. At the current moment, I'm involved with the Limerick Historical Society, have been for a number of years actually, and at the moment I'm serving as president. And I have written a letter because I wanted to get my thoughts down so that it would be reasonably clear to you. And I will leave a copy with Alicia, and then she can make copies for you, so you can have it for posterity or for reference. My purpose tonight is to explain some information that was given at your meeting last week. 2 years ago, the town's building committee, in reviewing condition and use of all buildings owned by the town, asked the Historical Society about how we used the Little Moore building up on Main Street. At that time, we felt our use of the building warranted keeping it and not selling it, as apparently was suggested by some committee members. The letter that Gail Libby referred to last week, stating that the building be retained by the town so that we could use it and not sold, And I thought that I wanted to be sure you understood that it was after a vote of the directors that I signed a letter to the effect, since I was president at the time. As we keep our records of Limerick and its families there, and we open it to the public whenever possible. Those records can and will be moved out at some point in time, because now we own the Congregational Church building, which is plenty of space to be utilized for so many purposes. The point of my going back over this is to be sure, and I hope that, I'm sorry this isn't broadcast right out there, because even after, I can't even tell you how many years, people still think that the Historical Society owns or did own the Moore Building. We never, ever did. It's not ours, it's town property, and the town pays for the upkeep. So please remember that. When someone says to you, well, they ought to do what, they ought to pay for the paint. No, it's a town building. The Society now owns 2 historic buildings in Limerick. Interestingly, the church property was acquired in much the same way as the Academy had become ours. After being used for many years as an educational facility, the Academy became a lodge hall for the local Order of Oddfellows. This organization, most or all of the years that passed when they owned it, they lost their members through attrition and death and disinterest or whatever. And so one day they simply closed the building and said the town could have it. So in 2003, the Select Board, of which I was a member, Howard, I think you were too, and Kenny Laughlin, we had to decide what we could do about the town, the building, and what it was going to happen to it. So the task of the Select Board was what to do with the property. No one came forward to want it, and it seemed that Limerick was about to have another town building to maintain. Good fortune smiled, though. Folks of the Historical Society of that day stepped up and they said they'd be interested in taking it over. You can imagine how happy we were. We agreed to sell it to them for $1. I don't think we ever collected that. But the members then were people like Jane Luigi, Dolores Francine, Barbara Anderson, Eleanor Watson, Nina Stetson, Dana and Wendy Morton, and there were others. And they began to put effort into collecting, sorting, and saving, and also archiving collections of historical documents relating to our town, and they stored them in the Academy. No monetary support was ever received or asked for by the Society until last year, when the need for toilet facilities became apparent if we were ever going to be able to continue our mission of service to the people of Limerick. A grant of $5,000 for this purpose was approved at last March's town meeting, and work began very quickly on this project, and it is now up and running. Fast forward now to 2022. The Congregational Church building on Main Street was closed with only 2 members in the 80s and 90-year-olds. They were the only 2 remaining. Again, the vision of an abandoned building in Limerick Village, the historic district, loomed ahead. In desperation, the 2 ladies, Diane Hetling and Janice Day, approached the Society and offered us the building as a gift. Our group thought long and hard, listing the upside and downside to the taking of that building. The only income would come from the Hannah Hayes Fund. And again, the word endowment was passed around last week. This endowment is talking about a fund which Hannah Hayes, who lived over on Rangy Road for many years in the Hayes buildings, and there are still, people named Hayes who still live there. Anyway, with monies from Hannah Hayes, she put it in the care of a Portland bank. And she lived all her life over there and loved the town and loved the people. So annually, the bank in Portland, which manages this fund, endowment, call it whatever you wish, and they distribute any advantages, money made, whatever, from this fund to charitable groups, among them the church and the research club. And there were others, but I fail to remember what they were now. But there was several, maybe it was a ladies' aid or the fire department ladies or something, but that money is distributed annually. It can be as big as $35, or it can be as big as $1,000, but one never knows. Whether this money will continue to come to us, the Historical Society, is uncertain at this time. So costs were estimated, repairs discussed, possible uses were put forward. We held several events to test how we could utilize the kitchen facilities and the large sanctuary area. Finally, with newfound energy from some new members, we made the decision to legally acquire that church property. After legal assistance, we now hold a legally executed deed to that property. Rental opportunities came in almost immediately, and we were blessed with the rec department's Christmas chorus. I hope some of you came to that. And more recently, a funeral was held for a local man who passed away. So at this time, I would like to repeat our request to include the warrant article that you were presented with last week, requesting $5,000, which is the same amount as last year, to be included in the next town meeting's warrant. This money will be used to make repairs to the kitchen ceiling, upgrade electrical services, so that we may continue expanding our services to this community, of which we all love and want to protect and see carry on. And so I will ask you if you need another copy of that warrant article. Last week you weren't sure and didn't think you could get it in to this March meeting, but I see now that you're still working with it. So do you need a copy of that?
No, we have it, but the warrant has been turned in.
That's not in it.
Right.
Or did it go in it? No. Okay. So that, if you would put that in as soon as possible, I know you in a moment have a new one coming up, need for town meeting. And I hope that you will at least take that under advisement, put it in, and let the people of our town decide, as they always do, wisely. Thank you. Do you have questions?
When the rec department used the building, were they allowed to use was there any cost to them? For the Christmas concert?
$250 for the month of use.
For the month of, so the time they needed it for practices and that stuff, okay.
Rehearsals, and then they went up and you folks cleaned and picked up and all that stuff. So actually 4 times the building had to be reheated for that. Plus the day, the Sunday. Saturday. It was well attended, and I think everybody had a good time because Greg is already saying we're waiting for the 2nd annual Christmas concert. So.
Would you consider, if we were to help fund some repairs up there, would you consider town-sponsored activities for free without charging the rec department? Or is that something you might consider?
I think consideration of that would be almost self-defeating in our purpose, because as you can imagine, we do things like food sales and fairs, craft fairs, etc. We will struggle just to meet the necessary money to pay the insurances of thousands of dollars, plus the all other things. And at the same time, make sure, excuse me, that things are improved in the church building. It's been vacant now for 5 years. And as with any building, things do go downhill. And we would like to update, of course, as possible. Right now, our need is for electrical updates and the kitchen ceiling, which has had a bad leak. We fixed the leak in the roof, but it still has damaged one of the lights. So that means light plus ceiling plus wiring. So, John, it would be lovely if, and I'll bring it to the board, and I'll ask them, and then we can see, you know, what everyone's opinion is. But it seems like it would be very difficult for us to be able to sustain that.
Can I just ask for clarification? Come on, are you asking, like, the rec paid $250 to help offset the oil cost for the building? Are you asking, instead of paying the $250, that would be the $5,000 to help do the wire and electricity?
I don't want to, I guess I want to kind of broaden it to say if the town is going to help support the building, you know, whether it's 5,000 or more or less, depending on what, I mean, at some point, can we get together and say, all right, we're willing to put this on the ballot with the condition that if the rec department wants to put on their Christmas program there again, there'd be no charge to them. You know, I'm not saying that it would be a constant use thing, but if it, you know, look, it's, as far as I'm concerned, we had the best function of that building last weekend, and it worked perfectly. There was over 100 people in there, and it worked. It was a great ceremony. The downstairs worked well. I certainly see the value in the building for people for using it. I just think if the town is going to support it with our dollars, it seems
We may have a
that we're now asking the town to also pay to use the same building that we're helping to support. So,
Quid pro quo.
yeah. Man, I would say every function you get there, put out a donation bin out and let people throw a couple. I mean, it's people, that building, people can use that building well. It's so, I'm not opposed to voting for putting it on the ballot, but I guess I'd rather not see the town also have to pay to use the same building that we're supporting.
Okay,
So
fair enough.
I think we have until June to, it's going to be June, and we can have,
Whenever it's coming up.
June would be the next option.
Well, we have plenty of time to think about that, and also, we will have more experience with it by that time. So we
To
can make
remind
a
us,
wise decision.
try and remind us, you know, to put that on too, if you would, just.
Oh, I got it. Alicia to the rescue.
And last weekend was a snow, no one called it a snowstorm, and people were able to park. They found parking, and they walked. I mean, they were behind the Brick Town Hall, it's not, people could do it in a snowstorm, so 90% of the days, it's not gonna snow. Parking really shouldn't be an issue. I mean, there's,
Right.
so,
Yes, I was happy to see such a crowd as that willing to turn themselves out. And that just proves your point, that they will find a place to park and
Yeah.
walk. Thank you for your input.
Okay, and next on the agenda, we have filling in for Stan Hackett. We have Casey Gray with the red boots to give us the update on town-owned properties.
Thank you for having me. I just wanted to review a couple of updates on the properties that we have under contract in regards to some of the questions I had last week. Map 39, Lot 105, the extension that was granted was indefinite. They had left it open because the process that is needed was assumed to be very long. And the buyer's attorney had recommended a different process than the process that we've been pursuing. And I just wanted to take a minute to talk about what their recommendation was and why I thought it was maybe a better option than what we've been trying to do. The buyer's attorney had made a recommendation that rather than pursuing consolidated construction where the title lies, was performing a new foreclosure, and there is a procedure that's outlined by the state for a foreclosure of a property with an unknown owner. And from what I understand is that council had advised maybe just to let it go and sell it for less money or whatever. I wasn't privy to like a conversation there, but I felt like Stan's been pursuing this option where there's a court record of a lawsuit with Consolidated Construction from way back in the 50s when all of this happened. And what he was hoping to gain by obtaining this court record was names of the owners of that company so that heirs could be located so that they could be served proper notice. I think that we've waited a really long time for these court records to arrive. And I feel like they have limited promise into what they'll yield because you may end up opening a can of worms in terms of heirs because you may be dealing, 1950s is a gazillion years ago, like a whole lifetime ago. You may be dealing with heirs of heirs of heirs. And finding, number one, could be very difficult and challenging, but also just the amount of work it would be to produce and notify all of these people without error, I think could be a real challenge. So I think at this time, I would recommend that the town pursue the option of a foreclosure to an unknown owner. And I would recommend to continue to work with this buyer.
I'm so
Time for a
sorry.
little guitar to come in now.
It's stuck in the basement.
I would recommend pursuing this alternate option. I know that there are concerns about costs, and I would like to say this property is under contract for $208,000, all of which the town may be entitled to, which is more than 40% of all of the monies that we've recovered so far. Boy, just sometimes the universe is against you. Map 39, lot 106. Our closing date was extended to the 31st. The buyer is set to close. I followed up with everybody today. Because the deed from this is very unclear because of its origin from the 1950s, the title company had assisted us in preparing a new deed description, just outlining basically what the tax map says in writing. It also, his new description also came with many warnings about how it was originated, not from a survey, but from the tax map itself. Town's council rejected this proposed deed description, and we've requested the title company to prepare a new option. The town's council had suggested it just be listed as only the map and lot number as the deed description, which was not acceptable to the title company's deed standards that they have to go by. So at this time, I think that the title person is working on a new description that may satisfy both his company's needs and town council's needs. For our real estate listings, that's all I have for now. I would like to request to make a statement in regards to last week's meeting with permission from the board, which I could do now or later.
Go ahead.
Last Tuesday, I received a call from a local citizen looking for information about real estate. And during that conversation, the citizen made an offhand comment to the effect that he thought I had been representing the town in a very professional manner. I thought the comment was strange, and it made me wonder what was going on. Wednesday morning, when I dropped off a closing check, I learned that I was a topic of your meeting last week after I left. And I was told that people were upset because I had served the town in a lawsuit. I called John and asked about it, and he briefly explained that the town had been served paperwork regarding my quiet title action for my company for a layer drive. When I had become involved in this, my attorney never informed me that the town would be served anything as part of the process. I was told that the former owner and mortgage holder would receive notices and that this is a normal part of the process to clear the title. If the town's been charged anything for legal fees in regards to my notice, I'd volunteer to pay it. To my own detriment, I was curious and watched the meeting Wednesday night, and you could imagine the shock I received seeing myself portrayed as I was, being cast as greedy and incompetent, called out by name during an agenda item to review a law firm to which I had supplied Stan contact information for after hearing the town's interest in possibly switching. For the record, I'd like to address some of the questions raised after I had left. I think there are two different topics that I'd like to address. I'd like to be 100% clear. I am not suing the town. The notices that were delivered last week are procedural so that I can clear the title on Alair Drive of the previous owner and his mortgage. I was told that they would be served to them last week to inform them that I am pursuing court action to clear the title. This notice states things such as the town had served both parties proper notices when they foreclosed on the property. Why is this necessary? When the municipal quitclaim deed is recorded, there is no evidence that shows that all the proper notifications were done as part of that process. The quiet title action provides evidence that these items were done and gives the previous owners and their mortgage holders a chance to object to the court process by serving the notice. I was not aware that the town would also be served one. This is a very brief summary of that entire process. I would encourage anyone who wants more details about how I arrived at this action to contact me directly, anytime, any day. I have no secrets. The new law should actually help prevent this type of action from needing to be being taken on foreclosed properties. Because once the property closes on the new law, a recording is actually made when they receive proceeds that should resolve any previous owner's rights. Because there is something showing that in the registry beyond the deed, it will prevent those owners from continuing to have rights for 5 or 15 years down the road. I think the second item I'd like to address is my competency and my ethical behavior. While I was here working on the purchase of Alair Drive, which was months and months, I want to say it was like a 9-month process to purchase that property. I asked if I could interview for the position to assist with tax-acquired sales as a real estate agent. I had handled one for Buxton previously under a previous iteration of the same law that we're dealing with now. But I have also a very unique career experience and expertise with distressed property sales that I thought would be helpful. I've worked for what they call REO, which is bank-owned sales, both on the seller and the buyer side. I've also served for DHHS in their distressed property sales. I've also worked obviously in construction and deal a lot in land sales in particular, and have other distressed property experience, including auctions and other types of distressed sales. When this process started, it was completely new. There were no policies in place, and not just here, but in most towns. And I had made a large amount of recommendations based on my experiences, both working in the Buxton sale for the previous version of this law, recommendations based on when I work for a bank and the types of addendums that they apply to their contracts. And DHHS has a very comprehensive process on how properties are listed and what the rules are around that, that I thought was actually something very good to model after. I had hoped to have and be able to have process in place that were thorough and uniform and set proper expectations for both the public and for other real estate agents, because this is a process that's new to them as well. And I wanted to do a good job in making sure that these transactions were smooth. When I started, I presented examples of these things, and I was directed to not copy counsel or connect with them, as the cost would be too expensive. And when I had counsel-related questions, I have made great efforts to make them efficient and concise so as to not burden the town with unnecessary costs. And my questions were presented by Stan. Council's responses to inquiry about creating policy, disclosure language, or performing additional title research into effort to sell property for more seem to be discouraged. These additional efforts, they discouraged these additional efforts, and I was just given a basic disclosure statement to make for all of our listings with a basic gist that the title insurance would not be available for these properties. I disagree with this approach. The town owns a number of different kinds of properties. It owns properties from way back when, with a disclosure that blanket statements, all of them, may not be totally appropriate for the reasons that we just discussed, like on the Dog Road property. But also, the town also owns a number of properties acquired in their own quiet title action against Fisher from the 70s. These properties have a clear title and probably should not be marketed as tax-acquired properties where the title is clear. And I think that the town could sell them for probably what is a retail price. The town owns them, not just as part of a foreclosure process. I think it would also be good to note that a number of these properties have been foreclosed on so long that they may also receive title insurance without any trouble. And it might be worth doing additional research to sort those and consult with someone to ensure that maybe we could get more money for them. And I'm just here to serve. If the town doesn't want to do those things, I'm happy to take the direction and obey it to the letter. but I do feel a responsibility to advise. And what I see is a blanket statement that bulks all of them into like, this is dangerous, you know, may not be the best thing for the town, and I feel a responsibility to say so.
I assume you've discussed that with Stan.
We have, and I think, you know, it would be worth for maybe a meeting about it, because I think actually Stan and Dottie, because we have talked about this, have been organizing and doing more research on the properties themselves to help categorize them better so that we can be more consistent in our sales. Since my integrity is in question, I'd like to outline some facts about my real estate service. I adopted several practices with permission to serve the town in a uniform and extremely ethical manner. In the listing agreements, all of my listing agreements were prepared with a very modest commission for our sales prices at 6%. I have agreed to share this commission 50-50 with every buyer agent. Many agencies in our area do not share this way. In fact, they take more on the listing side. Modeling my DHS listings, there is no dual agency allowed, and I have only represented the town. Above and beyond dual agency, you could serve a customer as a, quote, customer and not a client. I think that is confusing for the public. I have referred all buyer customers to use their own buyer agents, mostly encouraging them to use agents they know. But if they needed, I would refer them to a local agent who I have trained personally in the risks of buying tax-acquired property. I've referred these people without any compensation, including my own business partner and past clients when they have expressed interest in the town's properties. I fully recognize I'm in the public eye, and I've taken these extraordinary measures to ensure that my service and fairness to the public and the town are beyond question, and that all potential buyers are treated equally and have representation of their own to ensure that all of their decisions have been informed and educated by their own representation, thereby lessening the liability for the town. In the contracts, in an effort to lessen poor expectations and create uniformity in offers, with permission, I created thorough instructions for offers mirroring a purchase and sale agreement that I obtained from a Leamington tax-acquired sale. This agreement struck out several clauses, including lines of the standard realtor purchase and sale agreement, such as the promise in the title clause that the seller will assist in curing title, and adding as-is paragraphs to every single purchase and sale agreement that has come. In my presentation and updates, to ensure that all of this paperwork is properly completed and everything was presented equally, and to answer any questions from the public, I have attended every single meeting since this has started. I have followed up and progressed with updates as they happen, and I have been completely open and transparent and easy to contact. My number is on the internet. My name is Casey Gray. If someone has a question about my behavior, they are welcome to call me. I'm still shocked and hurt about the commentary made last week. After making such an extraordinary effort to be ethical, as the examples I just listed and others that I have not. To be clear, again, I am not suing the town. I welcome anyone's feedback, positive or negative. I feel it's a shame to have my hard-won 20-year reputation trashed without anyone even asking me a question. I frequently arrive early. I'm constantly available. If the town wishes for me to reimburse any charges in relation to the notice they have received, I'm happy to do it. If the town would like to release me from the current contracts, I will look into a way to achieve that. if there are any questions about something I've done, I would encourage anyone to ask me. I would be happy to explain my reasoning and hear their feedback right to my face. Thank you. Are there any questions?
I would just mention that, you know, I did review that, you know, court documents, and I recognize that it's not a suit against the town. The town is just a named party in it.
Because I collected the information from the town and it was town information, the town was noted as a party in the suit.
Yes, that's what I noticed. Like I say, I noticed there was no intent to sue the town.
Absolutely
And I will
not.
say, I for one am very happy with the service you provided to help us bring in some sales from tax acquired property. So I personally am happy with what you've done for us.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You watched the meeting from last week.
Yes.
At any point in that meeting, did anybody disparage you as a realtor and as you've handled the sales for the town?
There was
No
a comment-
one said you did anything
There
poor.
was a comment made, was, if she's done this, what else is she missing? And I'm not saying that I'm a perfect person. I am saying that I have done the best with the resources that I have been given, and I think it was above and beyond what you may have received from someone else.
And I don't think anybody's ever questioned the service you've given serving the town, selling these lots. In my mind, until tonight, because tonight's the first time you're telling us there's a better way to skin this cat. We've sat here week after week, but we can get past that. That's for the lots we do down the road. So, you know, we've sold a lot of lots, some at close to market price. Certainly, all of them for over what we used to get when we sold them at auction, and we'd get $100, a few $100 here and there, okay? No one questioned your integrity as a real estate broker and what you have done for the town. And I, for one, will say thank you. You've done a great job selling lots for the town, and I've said that. My comments last week, and I apologize, they were based on an assumption that I shouldn't have made. I assumed that you knew we were going to be served by a sheriff. Now, we clearly stated last week we were not being sued. We were a party in interest, and I think we made that pretty clear. We also said, as a party in interest, our attorney has said he has to answer it. Not a big deal, he's got to write a letter, okay? My comments last week were all based on the fact that I made the assumption that you knew we were going to be served, and that when you were here last week, you knew we had been served. I understand that that's not the case. You had no idea we were being served, and you had no idea we had been served. So with that being said, my comments from last week, I apologize, okay? I just assumed you knew it. You didn't know it, so why would you have any reason to tell us? As far as your working on the lots, you've done a great job working on the lots. I'm gonna be honest, you said you want honest both ways. I'm a little upset that tonight, we're hearing that there's a better way to do this and we can get a lot more money if we do some different stuff, and we haven't heard that from you in all the weeks you've been here.
In the weeks I've been here, I felt like my duty was to present the offers and follow up with properties that we were dealing with in contract. I had believed, and maybe I'm incorrect in this, but that I was responsible to work with Stan on how to do these sales. And I have sent him long letters about this, especially in the beginning of the process when we had properties that we felt like were abandoned and should be listed one way, and properties that were tax acquired and maybe listed another way. And Stan sought counsel, and in my efforts of working with Stan, we have followed counsel's advice. I didn't think it was a good idea to stand up here and go against the town council's advice during a public meeting, but I would be happy to share my suggestions with all of you if the town should like to look into other options for how to categorize and sell different types of properties that the town owns. I felt like I was doing the part that I was supposed to be doing with Stan, and then doing the part that I was doing here in the public eye with you. You don't necessarily want to determine on how to sell different properties in the public eye, because I think it's very complicated, because this town in particular has such a varied type of property that it owns. But I'm happy to give you the time whenever you'd like to have it to discuss my opinions on how to best manage those properties. I just figured if I was gonna say it all, I'm gonna say it all today, and if no one wants me anymore, I would just feel like I did my piece and move on.
No, so, I mean, I'm going to say thanks to you. We've brought in a lot of money on these lots. The town has brought in a significant amount of income with the lots we've sold. We clearly decided not that long ago that we needed to kind of slow the process down a little bit, that we maybe had too many out there at once.
I would agree with that.
And it's a learning experience with this new law for a lot of people, including us, including Stan, including you, I assume, because the law has a lot of different stuff to it.
Everybody.
So for everybody, so I think good learning experience. We brought in a lot of money. When we move to the next set of lots, perhaps we approach it a little different. And we do that more research, and maybe we spend some money to get more money, but that's something we need to decide on the next set. But as far as this set has gone, again, I personally thank you. I think you've done a great job. You have attended every meeting. You've explained every offer and given your recommendation on it. And as far as the town has gained very positively from this experience, we can only compound on that for the next go-around.
I would agree. I sincerely appreciate the apology, and I look forward, if the town would like to have me back to serve some more, I would be happy to do it.
All right, thank you, Casey. Okay. Moving on to old business. Reviewing legal accounts, we did have a warrant tonight, but there were no legal bills in it, so there's nothing to update on that. Cemetery mowing and the Veteran Cemetery Committee, we have nothing new tonight as well. The garden liability waiver, I was waiting on some information. I will have to go back to this person that was going to get me a suggested waiver from another place that they've got. So I have not received that, so I will have to follow up with that person to see if I can get that. So I've got an action step. Okay, next item is to review the standard operating procedures. Last week we received them, and then we had the homework of reviewing them this week to vote to see if we would accept these standard operating procedures that mostly affect the treasurer, who did speak to these last week. So I would look for a motion for discussion for approving the standard operating procedure. SOP number 0002. Gail.
Gail Libby, I reviewed the tape and Julie's comments, and there isn't a hard copy manual. Trio states on their website that their help is online, and I have added that and took out manual. Okay. I think you have that copy, right, Alicia? So that is changed from last week. Other than that, I think everything was okay.
Okay, thank you.
It says still manual.
So any more discussion before we take a vote? Beg your pardon?
Who made there's some handwritten notes on this? Okay,
She may want to speak to you before you go. Yes.
Okay, any more discussion? When I talked to her earlier, she was fine with it. These are just notes. Well, I didn't hear.
Notes, are something that should be changed?
well, that's what I'm looking at, that's what I'm wondering.
I understand in a previous discussion, these were to get a copy of the SOP. Alicia had to go to Julie because she didn't have a clean copy. So this is just Julie's copy with some notes that she had made.
Well, I wanted Julie to be able to speak to them too, like if they should be changed before it's voted in.
Okay, yeah, I did ask her before if she wanted to address it.
Policies?
Yeah.
Since we're talking about you.
What you're referring to, I think, is number 4, the responsibility, and it says it's me, but your department heads generate your purchase orders and are supposed to be coding all of their bills in the future, right?
And isn't that listed in the SOP number 1?
Yeah.
Wasn't that what? So that would be standard.
But they're not doing it as of yet.
Well, I think to put, I'm seeing what you're saying, but if SOP number 1 is department heads generate all purchase order and code all bills, I don't know why we would put that reiterated in here, because that should be the first step they're doing.
And this is franchise fees, right? This
Yeah.
isn't related to them submitting their,
Well, I see what Julie's saying is,
okay.
although it's her responsibility, she wants to make sure that department heads are coding the bills correctly. That's SOP.
If I do it,
Yeah.
I got a 50-50 chance of being wrong.
Well, that's SOP number 1, so I can see where that, we went over, you said about the manual. The manual is a digital manual, it's not a hard copy. Okay? So it's not a hard copy.
And the last two is, the only thing I asked is, was this voted on, do we need a vote?
This was voted on in 2013 and that was to continue on until removed or repealed, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So that means it's in effect, so we don't need a vote for that.
I'm sorry to have to ask these questions, but I just don't know.
If you
so-
need the answers, this is,
Yeah, that's all.
so I make a motion, we
Thank you.
accept and implement SOP number 002 regarding franchise fee capital equipment reserve.
Discussion?
Well, I think we know where these are new. These, I mean, we will have, there'll be some tweaking along the way, right? That's fluid, right? If we get through something and somebody says, oh, this doesn't work, then we come back and change it. So these are new for us, but I think it's a great way to get started and get some things down on paper.
Yep.
All in favor? Okay. So we have in place SOP number 2. Okay, next item is to sign the changes to the personnel policy. We made some changes last week, and this new one we have tonight, it reflects all of the discussion from last week, so do you have that, or is that the only copy? So, yeah, we'll go ahead and sign this since we talked about it last week. It's just a matter of signing. Okay, Okay, the big changes on there had to do with the mandatory direct deposit and per diem holiday day pay, so we'll put the new signatures on that. Okay, under new business now, first item is candidates night. And we're looking if the board would host that on February 10th. I just might make will the board be hosting that, or will an outside, in the past?
Well, Dee Dee has done it before, but
Yeah.
she's happy to pass the reins along to me.
Yeah, we've had other, societies in the past host it. Historical Society did once, I believe, even, so.
That's what we're discussing. I don't think we have it officially set, yes.
Yeah, I guess
We haven't had one in the last few years, but we also haven't had where there's been multiple people running for only a position or two that are open. So we have that this time, I think, just for the select board and road commission.
Yeah, okay, I believe in time past, I actually appeared in one of those and wore a tie, but I don't think I've worn one since.
How would it work for us? Like, I think it sounds great. How would we all sit at this desk here, Steve?
Just need to moderate. I mean, where none of us are
Sounds
running,
great.
where none of us are running, I mean, Alicia can pull it together, and we don't even, I mean, we can show up and watch, but we're not as citizens.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically what we've done before is ask for questions before setbacks day, before noon, like kind of stipulation to it.
Yes, and
In the past, hasn't there been a request to have the questions in earlier to be
So we asked
presented
for
to?
it before, I think they have to be like by noon that day or something, usually. I can look back, see what we've, and I think that you're.
Right, but I'm saying, can we have a deadline before that so that maybe they want to have some time to look at the questions, the candidates? Can we?
Oh, the questions asked that night?
Yeah. You should do it that way.
You guys can call however.
Well, and I'm happy to help you. I'm just saying
Yeah, no, no,
suggestions,
no.
happy to
I
help.
mean,
Are we doing this instead of a
I'm just
meeting?
Since I've been here, this was how it was, like I said, they were emailed.
Yep.
Asked ahead of time.
Yep.
Stipulations to it, no
Great.
derogatory, no.
Yeah.
So we just do this before the meeting, or start early, or do it at,
Instead of the meeting? It's been at 7 on like a Thursday, I think,
Yeah,
before.
that is true. So we have done a different night. Yeah, I guess I say the 10th, but maybe we should do it a different night. So it's not affecting because I think you're just gonna have that. I don't think you'd have a meeting after.
Right.
So maybe we need, I guess I just had it in my head the absentee ballots were going out on the 12th.
No, I think it makes.
you do the 11th, right?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Just have it off the meeting night.
At 6, or do you do 7?
7.
Would you need a moderator? Okay, I didn't know if you, I didn't hear that, sorry.
so what day was that? That was
The 11th.
the 11th, okay.
So I make a motion, we host a candidates night on February 11th at 7 PM.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, see you then. Okay, next item is to discuss the code of ethics.
So I just want to know, do we want to send this back out? Employees have actually acknowledgement sheet that I made last year. Or also, is there anything that you want to see differently on there to update before that happens, or still good? I think it was last updated on 2013. Quote me, but-
We approved, and did we make changes last year? Because we signed it updated
I
last
don't know if we made any changes or just.
March 2023.
Oh, is that when the last sign was on it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. So no, so I guess it's probably good.
Okay, is this something that each employee should sign a copy of this and return to show that they acknowledge?
I think everybody that's paid by the town.
Yes, and then that should be part of their permanent file.
If you had to guess, what percentage did we get back in last year?
I got back most fire, most here, except for a few. I don't know, probably 50–60%.
So what if we send it to every department head
That's what I did.
and tell them to get them for their people? And
I think I got all transfer station, library. Most were good. I just didn't know if you wanted any changes in it. If not, are you happy with what we had last year for acknowledgements? Do we want to resend it out to everybody again without like there being any changes to the?
why don't we take a look at it, maybe over this week?
Yeah, that's fine.
And
I just thought maybe there's.
if we only got 50% back,
Yeah, and maybe it was a little more than that. I mean, I have a list for sure that I can.
do we make part of the code of ethics that, you know, in order to get your paycheck, you have to sign this? I mean, your paycheck will be held, I mean, is that something, if only 50% are sending them back and we want them all, maybe part of this is, you know, failure to sign this, stating that you've reviewed it, may result in your pay being held up.
That's probably not legal.
We could remove them from employment then, whatever it takes, but
It's gonna be hard to say that statement, because you've got a lot more doing direct deposit now.
well, we can maybe put something in there to get them all back. We can think about it.
Well, I think maybe a step in that direction might be to at least have a list of all the employees, and then when we get them back, put a check mark, and then we'll know who we still, okay. And if we have that, then maybe a follow-up of, you know, a couple of weeks later with the department head saying, hey, we, you know, follow up with these people, just a succinct reminder that who hasn't, and please get these people in your department to,
So if you want to review for a week, see if there's anything changed, then I'm good.
yeah, okay, we'll keep that an old business for code of ethics then. And I believe we're ready for the hearing of citizens.
One thing first,
You first.
I just had a question from a citizen. If we, like the doors, we have the one entrance in and out, if that's going to stay that way, or if there's a chance that citizens could enter through any of those.
I think we can probably address that shortly. I think that's probably something we can take a look at. I believe some of the cause for having that is diminished, so we might be able to just eliminate that. Is that something?
Put that on the agenda for next week, do you wanna think about it, or just?
So what would be like the person that would like, do they give a reason? I mean, most municipal buildings and government buildings,
One entrance.
one way in, one way out,
And they
for,
can go
for
out those
security.
doors. You can
Yeah,
go out
you can
those
go out any one of
doors,
them,
which I see
yeah.
multiple people do,
Uh-huh.
but just coming in.
Two sets of doors to come in, isn't there?
No,
No,
just the handicap.
So way down the end,
yeah,
yeah.
they come in that one.
Just the-
I thought the other one was.
You can go out them, but they're locked. Yeah, from the outside.
Yeah, they can come right in behind them.
Well, now, it's not, I bet if you did your steps to the side door from the horseshoe, tell me what they are, I wanna know. From that door, from one of those doors to the side door. Well, me too, I'm not far.
We bring up at a later
Yeah,
time,
we can-
yeah.
We can discuss that.
I wanted to, last week we had the attorney, Bernstein Sure, I believe. Do we have any more information? There was another for a
She was going to
movie.
send us a list of, you know, of what their scope is.
We don't
And
have that.
I don't know, did you receive anything from
I
them?
would assume that she would probably send it to,
I didn't give her my address, so I'm assuming she
no,
sent
I
it.
think she has, I think she has Stan's maybe. I can check with them and say, I'm not sure.
Yeah, if we don't have it, then maybe just a friendly note to her saying, you know, hey, can you,
I mean, I'm happy to reach out, I don't want to overstep to her. and
yeah, just
ask.
following up. I mean, that's,
I can check with Stan just to make sure, and then I can reach out.
yeah, and I'm sure from what she said, I'm sure their scope is pretty standard. You know, they can handle anything we've got coming, but it'd be nice to, you know, get that response from them. Okay, any other? It's the Steve Show. Okay, now we'll have the Steve Show.
Couple of things quick. The camera up at the lookout, what's the story with that? Did we ever get that done?
Not yet.
Okay. Because that's going on, what, a year or so now?
At least.
Because they were gonna give up, the new company was gonna give us something to update, or they never haven't, nobody's done
We've-
nothing?
They've basically determined that that's useless. So we're looking at a couple of cellular options. I'll follow up with both those companies this week.
Where we get this extreme cold here, we use this for a warming center the next couple of days, or just something to tell people on, you know, I mean, the library's open, so I don't think we'll be over, but just, you know, we had 14 below, we're supposed to be below that tonight, and the daytime doesn't seem to get over 15, so it'd be just a nice option for people to, if they need some place to come and get warm, I guess.
I mean, I don't think we've never turned anybody away from coming into the building while it's open, so it's certainly here.
Last week, I was a little confused. The utility truck got fixed, and you guys were talking about 2 bills that got paid out of Stan's fees. What Stan's fees are supposed to be for, or is that something that taxpayers have to vote on to use his fees, or that
We have,
was
in the
in our thing?
housekeeping articles, we have the right to expend fees. When there was some question as to whether the fire department budget had enough to cover that repair, we knew there was plenty in Stan's fees, so we voted for that repair to be paid out of Stan's fees.
All right, yep. The other thing about the firm that was here, I think they're, what, $75 more per hour than we're paying currently? So, I think that's something, you know, before you guys decide on what it is, I don't know what our total was this year, but whatever it was, our total of hours, it'd be an interesting figure to see how much more it would cost us.
They did acknowledge that they're the most expensive.
Oh, yeah, no, I heard them. I'm just saying, it's just something to keep in the back of your mind that, you know,
Before, I guess that's the question.
well, you got that, and listen, I mean, I've been involved the last 20-something years, and know that sometimes, you know, if you don't tell them the right thing, they don't give us the right answer, and sometimes we don't want to hear what they have to say, and every firm's gonna be the same way, you know what I mean? So it is $75 more an hour is a lot of money. Hopefully, we're at the top of the mountain here the last couple of years, and things will slow down anyway, so, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else?
I want to make a motion that we request the treasurer to provide us by next Monday 3 years' worth of bank records and reconciliation for the rescue billing account.
Second.
3 years,
It's almost done.
So moved.
okay?
Okay, was there a second? I didn't-
There was.
What's that?
Okay, there was a second, okay.
There was a second.
In that case, all in favor? Thank you, Julie.
Because you talked about it last week, it's almost done.
Okay, anyone else?
Your auditors are gonna be here, and your request to John on the 6th.
6th and the 7th.
Yeah, but he wants you here on the 6th,
February.
please.
I responded to him, told him I'd be there.
Is there? Adjourned.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor? And where's that one thing to sign? I didn't sign that. You pushed past it.
We
down.
got 3 signatures. You want to